The mobilization hole of the Russian army is being filled with 10 to 12,000 North Korean soldiers for less than 2 weeks. This was stated by the head of the security programs at the Center for Globalistics Strategy 21 of Ukraine, Pavel Lakiychuk, on the air of the Hromadske Radio. According to him, if we count the losses of the Russian Federation, then per day in the war against Ukraine, the Russians lose from 1,000 to 2,000 personnel. Therefore, accordingly, 10 to 12,000 DPRK troops cover this mobilization need for less than 14 days. Strategically, the number of DPRK troops who are now fighting against Ukraine will not change the situation, he emphasized. In turn, if we consider this number of North Korean fighters as a trial step, then in the event of success, which the leader of the DPRK, Kim Jong-un, may see, there may be an increase in the participation of North Korean troops in the war against Ukraine, the expert believes. Russia has begun using North Korean soldiers in battles in the Kursk region. They have already suffered losses, stated President Volodymyr Zelenski. According to Zelensky, he heard a report from Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky regarding the situation at the front, particularly in the Donetsk region. They also discussed the situation in the areas of the Kursk operation. Syrsky reported on the participation of North Korean soldiers in battles on the side of the Russian army. The president noted that there are already many details about the destruction of these forces. According to preliminary data, Russia is trying to conceal North Korean losses. Currently, the Ukrainian Defense Forces and intelligence are finding out full information about the real losses of Russian units, which also involved North Koreans. Unfortunately, we have to defend against them too, though there is no reason for Koreans to die in this war. The only reason is Putin's madness, which has engulfed Russia and fuels this war. We will continue to defend our positions, Zelensky said. After suffering losses during assaults in Kursk, DPRK army units are being reinforced with fresh personnel to sustain active combat operations. This information was reported by Ukraine's main intelligence directorate. According to the report, on December the 14th and 15th in the areas of Plekhovo, Vorosba and Martinovka in the Kursk region of Russia, DPRK army units lost at least 30 soldiers, either killed or wounded. Additionally, Ukraine's main intelligence directorate stated that at least 3 North Korean servicemen went missing near the village of Kurilovka. To compensate for these losses, assault groups are being replenished with fresh personnel, particularly from the DPRK Army's 94th Separate Brigade, to continue active combat operations in Kursk, the intelligence agency noted.
President-elect Donald Trump says he expects solving the Russia-Ukraine war will be more difficult and criticizes the Biden administration for allowing the use of U.S.-made long-range missiles. "I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia," said Trump from his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida. "I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans." Trump has railed against forever wars since before his first term in office and long spoken favorably of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
No, but if you'd like to come, I'd like to have him. I mean, I didn't invite him, no.
Are you disappointed that China won't be at the inauguration?
I don't know that he won't be at the inauguration. I mean, I haven't really spoken to him about it. I don't know that, actually. I would say that if he'd like to come, I'd love to have him. But there's been nothing much discussed. I have had discussions with him, letters, et cetera, at a very high level. You know, we had a very good relationship until COVID. COVID didn't end the relationship, but it was a bridge too far for me. But if he'd like to come, I'd certainly be. He hasn't, just so you understand, he hasn't said one way or the other. Because a lot of people say he won't come, he will come. People think he will come, he won't come. It's something we barely discussed, just about didn't discuss. But I have had especially through letters, some very good conversations.
Have you had conversations with Venezuela?
You know, because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. More difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult. I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, you know, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does. But that did a lot of bad things. I don't think that should have been allowed. Not when there's a possibility, and certainly not just weeks before I take over. Why would they do that without asking me what I thought? I wouldn't have had them do that. I think that was a big mistake they made.
Will you reverse that decision when you're in office? To let those
I might, yeah.
missiles be
I thought it was a very stupid thing to do.
And when you
What should Zelensky, if anything, be prepared to give up to end this war? Do you have anything in mind to end this
He
war?
should be prepared to make a deal. That's all. Got to be a deal. No, got to be a deal. Too many people being killed. That is a war that's too many people. Got to make a deal. And Putin has to make a deal.
What deal would
By the way, Putin has to make a deal, and Putin would have never gone in if I was president. If I was president, we wouldn't have had inflation. Our oil prices would have been lower. I had a good relationship with Putin. He would, despite the Russia hoax, which made it more difficult. If we had that election, if it were an honorable election, we wouldn't have had any of the problems that we're talking about right now. Putin would have never got in.
Before you take office, do you still think you can make that deal? Will you ask Putin to give up Assad?
Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think we have to get on with our lives. We'll have to see what happens. But right now, Syria has a lot of, there's a lot of indefinites. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Syria. But I think Turkey is going to hold the key to Syria, actually. I don't think you've heard that from anybody else, but I've been pretty good at predicting.
Can you continue using the question?